Hi, everybody. My name's Heather. I work at Canonical. I love Ubuntu. I love Linux, really, and GNOME, and all the things. Anyways, yes, so I'm here to talk to you about a thing that we did at Canonical called, well, let me just go on. Here we go. All right, so the point is, gaming on Linux is gaining popularity. Let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem here. So I have this picture of Atlas. Okay, you got some distros that are, you have all of these tools to kind of deal with. So there's Wine, Plain on Linux, Steam, Lutris, Heroic, kind of so many different little pieces that need to work together to make a gaming experience possible on Linux. And then depending on your operating system, you might have different challenges. So there's a really wide ecosystem of gaming here, and there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts. Wine, I used to use Wine quite a bit back in the day, until one day something broke and I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I'm all done. So then I got into board games. But I think things have gotten a lot easier in the times. And so Wine's really cool. It translates Windows-specific inputs into Linux comprehensible instructions. And then Steam kind of has its own version called Proton that some of you may know about. And then they have this kind of Steam Play, but Proton, powers that. So Steam Play is kind of a general set of tools, but Proton is kind of the main piece there. So many of you might be familiar with debugging Wine problems from back in the day as well, and have your own sob stories. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and as technology has improved, we got OBS Studio and Discord, and so just as time has gone on, the number of tools has increased. So a little bit of history of gaming on Linux. So Steam was initially launched in 2003. I remember when it came out for Linux, 2013. And then SteamOS was a big deal, and Steam Machines was kind of, just a machine dedicated to SteamOS that dealt with peripherals and all kinds of things. And then I mentioned Steam Play that came out in 2019 and really kind of started to level some of the playing field. And then as time goes on, there's more and more support that's being added. So support for NVIDIA DLSS was added to Proton recently, and the easy anti-cheat, which is really solid. And then, of course, the Steam Deck, which I have pre-ordered, as many of you have, I'm sure. So, Steam was huge. It did all kinds of things. It provided social networking, your game streaming. It kind of was like a one-stop shop for your gaming needs. So, this is a great time to get into gaming on Linux. Oh, I didn't even talk about this graph. My apologies. So, number of Steam games playable on Linux. It was pretty slow, right? Like we talked about native games until Proton came out. And now we talk about number of games that are playable on like SteamOS and Linux. And I just checked this morning and it's a little over 21,000 games in Steam that's playable on SteamOS and Linux, and that's huge. It's huge. I'm sure if we did more resolution here, you would see more of a hockey stick, around when ProtonDB was announced. So what is ProtonDB? I think I just kind of, here we go. ProtonDB is this wonderful community project that does its best to take games and make them, Windows games historically, and make them playable on Linux, and at least document to what degree they're playable. It's a great, you can look at the top 100 games, the top 10 games, fluctuates quite a bit. You can even add your own Steam account in there, so it can pull your library, you can see the stats. Last I checked a couple days ago, that portion was just a little broken, but I'm sure it'll get fixed soon. So historically, it has been kind of a mess. Setting up, if you wanted to sit down and play a game, you spent hours setting up dependencies, and then at the end of the day, you didn't have anti-cheat, and you still might have had some like compatibility layer problems, and then maybe your joystick wasn't supported at the end. So at the end, you're not playing your game, and you're just frustrated. And then you go to the board game store. I'm kidding. So what can we do to solve this lady's tears? We can snap something. So what is snap? What are snaps? I mean, those of you that were here right before the break heard Igor talk about kind of the structure of snaps and the use of extensions to kind of make that easier for you. But it's basically a sandbox app that's packaged with its dependencies in a secure environment. And then we use these different cores as a fundamental base. It can run on any Linux distro with snapd, and we already have lots of snaps out there that you may know about, like Firefox, Chromium, and then even some more proprietary stuff like Spotify, and we have Skype that I've used to get in contact with my mom. So they're pretty handy, and you can learn more about them at snapcraft.io. So, how does this work with gaming? Well, as you might have guessed, we have decided to snap Steam. And I say we, but really Ken Van Dyne is my manager, is very knowledgeable in snaps and very passionate about community, and we're seeing how we can move forward in this gaming space with snaps. So, we've snapped Steam. It contains the Steam launcher, plus everything you need to run your Steam games. So, we all remember installing 32-bit libraries going, do we need these anymore? I guess so. Well, this time, it's bundled for you, including the support for Vulkan, Mesa drivers, and the latest versions of Proton and Steam. Proton's updating all the time, so it's really nice to kind of get that from a trusted source. And so no more PPAs, no more messy, I'm going to install this and cross my fingers kind of thing. Okay, so if Proton is evolving all the time. Remember, Proton is that compatibility layer that's a forked version of Wine. So about a week ago, we got 7.0.2, and it seems like every Proton version kind of has the same things. Has a ton of bug fixes, which is always good. There's always here's a list of more games that were only playable on Windows that are now playable on Linux, and so that's always exciting to see. And then there's increased support for Vulkan, which is the replacement for OpenGL. So, I mean, we're really staying at the top there. So, every new release comes out with more and more things that make your gaming experience more enjoyable. And you don't have to do anything special to get these features. You just install the snap, and the games are sandboxed as well. So that's always good. So please go try out the Steam Snap. It is early access, so use it with caution. But let us know if something doesn't go wrong, because we want to improve it. And that's how open source works, right? You test and you provide feedback, and then rinse and repeat, and it's all great. So you can find a link to the Steam Snap right there in our GitHub page. And I believe that Ollie is posting a discourse announcing this as I am talking. So that's kind of neat. But we're not stopping there. There's so much more we can do. So kind of going back to the problem, looking, with the issues of gaming on Linux, what does this solve? It solves several of these things, right? The drivers and dependencies, we definitely got that covered. We provide the libraries for you. Anti-cheat is included. Compatibility layers, Proton, that's all solved for you. It doesn't fix everything, right? We don't support all of the peripherals, not yet. And we lack fully featured performance overlays, but we're getting there. I forgot to remove that frustration bit at the end. So how are we going to get there? Like, how are we going to get to our kind of end goal? We want to eventually be able to provide an easier environment for a user to select a specific kernel for like their optimized gaming experience, or to choose newer Mesa drivers, to really tweak those performance optimized pieces. We are also in partnership, like we're talking with Unity, Epic, NVIDIA for improved support. And we are looking to have more involvement with Proton and Wine. So, as we have mentioned several times, we're hiring. And I said earlier, we're trying to build a dedicated team for gaming, for improved gaming experience on Linux, targeting Ubuntu. So if you're interested, we're looking for a desktop gaming product manager as well as engineers. If you have any questions, you can just chat, just ping me or talk to me or anybody else that's here. We would love to have you. And that's really it. I mean, we're excited. We're excited to have gamers on our Steam Snap, and we want to improve it. We want to make it as efficient and as seamless and fun of a gaming experience as possible. When my daughter is old enough to play games, I want her to just like install Ubuntu and install the Snap and just like go. Or just, no debugging those middle layer problems ever again. So that's all I had. You can reach me. There's my email. I'm Hellsworth on IRC and Linux Flower on Twitter. Yeah, thanks.
Questions from the room? Sorry, questions. Do you have questions?
I don't have questions.
You're best suited to ask yourself questions. But it's going to be Britt.
I'll kick us off here. Love the work on Steam. Awesome. It's the biggest of the game launchers for sure. One of the things that was pointed out in that Line of Tech Tips series was that while Steam has the largest, it's the Netflix of games, it has the largest variety. A lot of the big publishers, Riot Games and EA, they're like moving to their own Origin, Riot Launcher. Are there ideas being planned in the works, aspirations maybe to try to bring other launchers to Linux in much of the same way that Steam is on Linux?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think we'll have to see kind of how much adoption and demand there is. But if there's a lot of demand for that, then absolutely we're going to try and snap that, work with them. But yeah, it's a later. We'll see. Yeah.
Hi. Well, this is loud. Yeah, thanks for your talk. I was a little bit involved in sandboxing Steam and Flatpak as well as Firefox, and we had like serious issues to it's right now it's like really hard to call these apps sandbox because the holes in the sandbox are just so huge, especially because of certain input methods. And I wanted to ask if you are more successful in actually sandboxing Steam and the games.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so actually it isolates the IPC bus. And so I know that it is sandboxed to some extent, but I can't speak to the super low level AppArmor profiles, how large the holes are. But the question was, how sandboxed is it? Is that right? Okay. I think that's a matter of opinion that I can't say. I can say that the reason that we focused on Snap specifically, I know that there is a Flatpak of Steam, and I think that's amazing. I think that's great. On Ubuntu, our users care mostly about snaps, and so that's what we wanted to provide them as part of a consistent experience. But also, I think that the healthy competition there can only improve both. If that didn't answer your question, I'm happy to chat more to dive deeper into what the root question was.
How confident would you be in the sandboxing? Was there any testing so far, or is it still? Oh yeah, sorry. Was there like any testing so far of the sandboxing, or is it just so far just okay? We did something, but we don't know how confident we are about the sandboxing.
We've definitely tested it, but we also, this is brand new. So this is the announcement of it. So this is also a call for testing. Please come help us test it and help us identify any issues. But we are confident that it is sandboxed.
May I add something to that?
Of course.
So for users, the end user, the gamer, the most important thing is a seamless gaming experience. Sandboxing is important, but if they can't have their game running, they'll find a way around it. So the sandbox just needs to align into a perfect gaming experience. Otherwise, it's just something people will ignore. And they'll go somewhere else. Windows, Mac, whatever, right? Well.
Any other questions?
There's some comments online, and there is one online question,
Okay, great.
which comes from Denitis. When you said that Proton is included, does it mean that it has been recompiled to work against that snap environment? Or does it still use the Steam runtime plus pressure vessel container?
I believe, so Steam, it still uses the Steam, we're not compiling Proton separately. So what Steam comes with, the Proton, is what we are disseminating. We're not building it separately.
There's a question over there.
What's the relationship between the Proton and the wine? Is Proton just a special version of wine?
Yes, I believe Proton is a forked version of wine that has been optimized for Steam.
Will the Steam support running the Windows game on Linux and on Wayland? I mean, where it supports Wayland?
Yes, I was playing Wayland games. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah, I see.
Thanks. So I really hope that you can achieve your dreams of having your daughters install Steam on Snap and just play. But I'm wondering, like, if I'm here today, it's because as a kid I had to, type ld_library pass blah 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 and then bash. And I'm wondering, do we have a path for people forward to start learning how to tinker? Like, are we keeping a pathway for people to struggle a bit in order to learn? And I don't know, as a community, how many people are in the same case than me, but that will be interesting to know.
Yeah, I mean, so Discourse is generally, discourse.ubuntu.com is where we do a lot of community engagement. So if people are testing, debugging, questions, reach out, whatever, it's a good co-located place. You can search, for if someone had the previous problem. So hopefully, in the modern times, we have those kind of, grouped discussions for easy discoverability. So ideally, people don't have to struggle nearly as much. And they can build off of, what other people about their same level are doing and kind of work together to ramp up, to get there faster, to be less frustrated, right? That's the goal.
Questions? There's Britt again.
Britt with another hard question.
Hardest. NVIDIA is the king of gaming graphics cards right now, and they're also notoriously hard, maybe not hard, but finicky to get running the drivers correctly. Other Linux-based distros have put in some work to make packaging of the NVIDIA drivers as easy as it can be. Is that one of the initiatives that you think this gaming focus team is going to want to do, is try to decrease the barrier to entry to make sure that, like, give the best NVIDIA experience possible Waylands and getting it installed, all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. We're talking to NVIDIA to do our best to I know it's going to be a slow process, but we have to make progress at some rate, right? So we want to kind of make it not so difficult. So we're definitely talking with NVIDIA to ease that experience.
Anyone? There are no more online questions. No.
So yeah, please take a look. Consider giving it a try if you want to do some benchmarking, performance tests, anything. Let us know how it went. If it was terrible, if it was great, we want to improve it. I think we're all here because we all love free software. And like I said, I think it's good and healthy to have competition between individual technologies because that keeps us honest and it keeps us, innovating. So I hope people don't see this as any sort of negative thing. It should only be positive. So please come and help us test and improve the Linux gaming experience on Linux. Thank you.
Woo.